Okay. So welcome everyone. Um, Today, let me get my little PowerPoint going. My corporate training background keeps coming out. I can't function without a PowerPoint. Uh, we're already doing the brief welcome and brief intros. I'm going to give you some updates with RJS, Refugee Jumpstart, and client impact statements. Jessica recently did an exit interview for some folks and some interviews or surveys about what their experience was like. And I think it was really helpful to hear these things. I found it very motivating. This time I'm going to be doing a coaching bite on SCARF, and I'll be curious to see if other people know about SCARF. And this is kind of following on Caroline's great presentation last time on neuroscience and the brain and trauma. And so this is kind of, it inspired me to take it kind of one more step. So a model to understand the refugee mindsets. And we're going to get in small groups and have a chance with 3 or 4 other people to discuss some of this. And then we're gonna propose a client case review that some of our well-being coaches have offered up, and we'll present that and get some feedback from you on that. Okay, sound like a plan? So here's some updates. I got about 4 more session completion forms in today. So the number keeps going up, but since January, we've had probably now about 135 coaching sessions. We've had 21 applicants in May, and out of that, we got 5 new clients. So you see, it's pretty consistent. We get a lot of applicants, but we only take about 25%. That's why it's kind of slow moving to get enough applicants. We want to make sure they speak English well enough, that they have internet connection well enough, that they meet our criteria. So it's Jessica spends a lot of time interviewing them and trying to figure it all out. Our current countries of origin are from these countries, and the countries of resettlement are here. We haven't gotten many in Europe recently. And I want to encourage any of you, wherever you're located, if you're connected at all with refugee organizations or even with your own clients, to let them know we're taking more clients if they have friends who are educated refugee status people. We would love to take them on as a client so they could do some promotion for us as well. So this last month, Cindy did a phenomenal job in behavioral interviewing for our clients. I think there was a real positive response about how to present themselves in a really persuasive way with potential with recruiters and job placement people. We had a LinkedIn workshop with a guy who's head of social impact. He's located in Berlin. It was really probably one of the best LinkedIn workshops we've had. He's a manager of the EMEA region and Latin America. We had 35 clients attend, and we're giving all of them premium LinkedIn accounts for a year, which they can take classes for free. They could approach people. There's no limit. So I think that freebie, I think, was a big incentive because they couldn't get it without. I've asked them to do this for our coaches as well. And he wouldn't let them do it at this one, but sometimes they combine other NGOs and they do a training. So we're going to stay on top of it because we would really love for you folks to have the benefit of that as well. So upcoming, you all know, I think I presented last time, June 14th and 15th. A week from yesterday, I'm leaving for London, and Hussein and I are going to be doing a presentation on coaching refugees in this trauma-related coaching conference at Hult University, Ashridge. I'm going to be continuing going on then to Athens, and I'm going to be doing an in-person workshop for our entrepreneurship pilot program that Hussein is heading up. And there's seven participants there, and we're doing the Strengths Finder and all that. And then I'm also doing an in-person workshop on the first 90 days on the job, a workshop I've done before about how you make a really important impression that first 90 days. So we're asking, so many of you are coming from a learning and development background and have done a lot of training yourselves. So we would love you some of you have expertise in some of these areas, and you kind of maybe already know what our clients might need, but if you could you know, do a 75 to 90-minute workshop. A couple of clients recently said, can you do something on communicating others with confidence? A lot of these are leader-led organizations that they want to know how to come across well. Emotional intelligence is huge for those of you who have expertise with that. Time management, they're all trying to figure that out. Goal setting and priority setting, personal budgeting. There might be other topics of things that you normally train in or have a program designed that you could tweak for our folks. So please shoot me an email and Jessica an email. Let us know if there's something that you'd like to do. And we're trying to do one workshop a month for our clients. Um, and we're also interested in, I did a coaching, I'm kind of filling in today, but we've had some great coaching bites. Caroline last time and Agatha did something. So for our peer coaching connection calls, it's like 20 minutes, a little lecturette of some sort where we could get in small groups, discuss and come back together as a large group. So if there's something that you think is relevant for our community, please let us know. We'd love to have you present. Okay. Okay, so this is the happy part. Um, I'm going to read you some of the statements that our clients have said that I find it gives you a real sense about what it is that we're doing for folks. Um, Hussein and I were just talking about when we're trying to get money and we're trying to get grants. Um, they want hard, how many jobs did they get? They want the hard facts, right? They want the metrics. And we have to figure out a way of presenting this in a way, because when you read it, you see how impactful it is. So having a thought, these are direct quotes. Having a thought partner to reflect on myself and my goals, supporting me with job search tools and strategy, providing supportive and constructive feedback. I realized my resilience, updated my CV to show my resilience. My CV is now readable, understandable, and shows my strengths. She keeps me focused on my goals, helping me to clarify my career goals, supporting me with job search tools and strategy, helping me rebuild my self-confidence. My coach created a safe space where I could talk about my fears without feeling judged. I learned many techniques that help me reduce stress and manage negative thoughts. I learned to appreciate my past achievements and to be thankful to myself and for them. I realized that when my goals are clear, it becomes easier to achieve them. So I should always prioritize clarifying my goals. I used to think that my overthinking mind is useless, but now I know how to use it efficiently. I'm strong even if I am struggling. I don't know about you, but I get emotional when I read these. I'm strong even if I'm struggling. So you folks are doing an amazing job to have these kinds of comments. So I was saying before, might bring us the end of the world, but in the meantime, I'm loving it. Well, I'll show you. This is the last one. She accepted me as a whole person, even when I'm jumping between ideas and moving around myself. So I say AI is great for us because I said I fed in all these quotes and there were even more. And it popped up. I go, what are the themes? And give me a graphic. And I thought the graphic and the themes were exactly right on. Empowerment and self-discovery, skill building and practical support, clarity and focus, emotional support and safe space, and resilience and hope. I mean, that's pretty darn good. I think we're going to put this on our website also for refugees when they apply of what coaching is all about. So thanks to all of you for making these kind of quotes possible and these kind of themes, but this is kind of the work that we do. So let me stop there for a second. Is there any questions?
Can I ask a really silly question that I probably
No
should
silly
know, but I
questions.
just wonder others may have it. How many coaching sessions are we supposed to have with each client? Is there
Oh,
there's a specific target, is there not? Because
yes, there is.
and if it doesn't happen within X, like we've been we've been postponing it with my client for various reasons, legitimate reasons, but I just wonder how many should be getting into how long a period?
So our model is 8.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Sometimes it's less than that, but we would love to get through 8. And then
Yep.
it's a matter of the coach and the client negotiating
Okay.
because then what happens is, well, let's continue meeting every other couple of weeks, or you check in whenever you need me on here, or do you mind if I check in with you to see how you're doing? Or let's check in, let's put it on a calendar in a month from now, let's check in. So, and you could keep tracking it with us, but 8 is kind of the model, and if you go beyond, that's fine. If it has to end beforehand, it would be good for us to kind of know what was the issue, and oftentimes it's very legitimate. Um,
Mm.
and so that's kind of the model. And
But
just,
but over how long a period of time? Like, do you say in a year and 6 months? Sorry.
yeah, no, there's no,
Okay.
what we're getting feedback on from our clients at the end is what's the ideal amount of time of spread. And the majority are seeming to say every other week. So it seems
Oh,
like every 2 weeks is the ideal. I think if it goes too long, you lose momentum. I think like once a
okay.
month, you kind of don't have the momentum. I would say 2 to 3 weeks max. Personally, I don't know. I'm seeing
Oh. This
some
one's gone over for a bit. That's why I wondered what the expectation and what the, legitimate reasons, but I just wonder, start to finish, when should it be?
I'd say
Um,
3 to 4 months,
hmm,
ideally.
okay.
All
Okay.
right. So rush this person along a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
I
Um,
w sorry, I was
yes.
just going to jump in. I find that with my client, we've gone, and I was telling Jessica this, like sometimes the check-ins are just very informal, like texts and a quick phone call. Without a big formal Zoom and calendar invite, if you will. But then like we do have something on the calendar tomorrow for interview prep, right? Which is a proper like kind of Zoom setting, if you will. So I don't record like kind of all of the informal catch up, but should I be?
Well, if it's just a quick text or something, no, but it'd still be great if you could have, you know, a set like 8 sessions at some point.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, some background noise. I'm not sure where it is, but whatever. Okay, thank you for that. And welcome and welcome, Enos. Welcome. We were
Hi.
interested and
Nice
Emma,
to
Evie.
meet you.
We're just where are you we went through interviews, introductions before, just your name and where you're located. Where are you, Enos?
Hi, my name is Inês and I'm in Boston, US.
In Boston. Okay, great. And Evie?
Hi, I'm Evie. I'm located near Bath in the UK.
Okay, great. And we're gonna
Sorry I'm late.
that's all right. We're glad you made it. Um, okay, so that was the intro stuff and the updates. And I want to share with you this scarf model. First of all, I'd be really curious to know how many of you have heard of scarf before? You haven't? Oh, wow. Oh, one, Cindy. Okay, so okay, can you see that? So, Hussein had offered to wear a scarf as a demo for this. I go, no, it's not that kind of scarf. It stands for something. So, let me back up and say scarf. Um, we've developed this model of refugee mindsets, and Hussein's going to go through it with you again, really briefly, because he's consolidated it. And we've talked about it. He's run it through a bunch of refugees from all over and say, does this make sense? Should we combine these? Whatever. So we're happy with the 5 that we came up with. And I was kind of eager to say, there's got to be some kind of, so we named them. Okay, so what? But there seems to be like some underlying something around that. And I think neuroscience might have an answer. And then I remembered the SCARF model that is used a lot in organizational settings, but it seemed to me to really work here as well. And I'm going to explain that in a moment. But at first, I want to have Hussein, if you could please um, give us a reminder about what these refugee mindsets are. And then I'll show you how the neuroscience kind of matches up with that.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you so much. So basically, we came up with a mindset, way ago when I was presenting also a coaching part, and it was 7 mindset, refugee mindset. But then after speaking with refugees and speaking with Beth, we shrink it into 5 mindset, starting with the victim mentality. So I'm gonna be really brief in explaining about them. The victim mentality is a mindset happens when someone feels stuck. powerless, and blames outside forces for their problems. They often focus on past pain, like, refugees, and feel like nothing they do will change their situation. The second mindset is survival mode thinking. People in this mindset live day by day, just, day by day, and avoid making future plans because they don't feel safe or stable enough to think ahead. And I think it's like the majority of your clients are having the same survival mode mindset thinking. An empowered mindset, this is a new one after we consolidate all the mindset together. This one, someone lacks confidence and believes they don't have to control over their life or situation, specific situation. They often wait for a permission. It's like, I need the permission from, my coach, for example. That happens to you, I think so. To act and avoid making decisions on their own. Next, identity conflict. This mindset comes from being caught between culture or losing one sense of self after displacement. It causes confusion, loneliness. It causes us like plenty of stuff, to be honest, and uncertainty about who they are. It's an identity crisis. Distrust of system, oh my God, that is really common, among us as refugees, due to past trauma from our, regimes, governments, our country, and bad experiences. This mindset involves fear or suspicion of institutions and people also in power. Even when those people are trying to help, we doubt it. For example, some of your clients or some of my friend refugees asking me, it's like, if Refugee Jumpstart doing their services for free? It's like, they are skeptical about it. So that's it so far, Beth.
Great, thank you, thank you. So that's and one time we spent some time talking about, can you relate? Be thinking as we go through this today. Be thinking about, does my client fit in any of these mentalities? Not everybody does, but my hunch is a lot of them do. So SCAR stands for status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. It's kind of a modern version of threat. When you don't have these things, your brain thinks you're under threat. Think back to caveman times, think back to animals wanting to eat you. If there's a choice between, running from an animal who's going to eat you and a reward, you're going to go through you're going to pay attention to the threat. But how do you, so it's evolutionary. The amygdala is kind of touched off. It's the emotional part of the brain. And when that happens, it's evolutionary. It's involuntary. You don't even know you're doing it, but it cuts off the cerebral cortex, the rational part of the brain. So sometimes all of us, I think, experience at times, we'll act out emotionally and not really have given it logical thinking thought process. So when you think about SCARF model, status is relative importance to others. In an organizational setting, it will be if you get a demotion, if somebody embarrasses you in front of a colleague, if you get reprimanded. But status is also, I'm unimportant here for refugees. It seemed to be, I'm not a citizen, I'm lower, considered lower class. Refugee has a negative connotation. So they have a low status. Certainty. This I was doing at one point, going to write a book on neuroscience and leadership, but then I got involved with refugees, and so I forgot about it. But one of the things I learned is ambiguity. The brain, when we're not sure of something, the brain automatically goes to the negative. It chooses the negative instead of the positive, and that's self-preservation. So the brain likes certainty, the ability to predict the future. And as we know, refugees, a lot of times they have no ability. Can I get into the UK? Can I get a job? There's just a lot of uncertainty in their lives with their families back home and that. Autonomy is a sense of control. There's a personal sense of agency that I can have some control over my life. I'm an autonomous person and I can control things in my life. Relatedness is the sense of connection and belonging, that you get your endorphins and you get all your positive stuff, hormones and things going if those needs are met. If those needs are not met, the brain thinks you're under threat and it acts out in certain ways by being lonely, withdrawn, a lot of other kinds of things. And then this last one is F and SCARF for fairness. You want to be treated fairly, and there's a perception of a fair exchange and treatment. And all these could be real or perceived. And in often cases in their situation, it is real. And sometimes it's also perceived that there's a lack of fairness. I didn't get the job because I'm a refugee. Well, maybe that's true. And maybe somebody was more qualified and maybe whatever. So to explore other options with them, for an example, that it may not just be one thing. So this, by the way, came from David Rock, who created this Neuro Leadership Institute. So when I thought about this model, because I use a lot in giving feedback, how you don't, if you give feedback in a way that, negates somebody's status, you don't give clear feedback, if you take away their time. Anyway, there's all these issues around how to give feedback in a way that will be rewarding and will be motivational, not resulting in fight, flight, or freeze. I thought to myself, this explains a lot with refugees. So the victim mentality, for an example, the SCARF could be in any one of these, but they seem to match up kind of 5 on 5, which I found kind of amazing. A status, I don't matter here, I'm a victim. And that could lead to feeling withdrawn, disengaged, or passive. The survival mode, there's wanting certainty. Everything feels unpredictable. Why even bother to plan? There's no long-term goal setting because everything's going to change anyway. So it doesn't matter. Unempowered mindset, the autonomy. I have no control over my life. Avoidance of responsibility, resistance to planning and decision making. That's what I think a lot of times they want. The goal setting thing is a whole new experience for a lot of these refugees. They're not used to planning and then working backwards. How do you get there step by step? It's a kind of a new experience, I think. The identity conflict about, I don't belong anywhere. I'm not, I'm Syrian, but I'm here. And if I wear a hijab, if I'm a woman, I'll feel more accepted in this new community. But then am I giving up my identity if I stop wearing it? So all those identity conflicts can lead to isolation, shame. I'm embarrassed if my mother only knew what I'm doing here. Withdrawal to my own community. And so that's some of the results of that. And then the distrust of systems has to do with fairness. These systems are not for people like me. Defensive, cynical, a lot of cynicism, avoids engagement with organizations or authority. Hypervigilance, like, how are they going to screw me this time? So that's kind of, to me, I thought that this model of this kind of neuroscience of today, how people react today when there's not a real animal trying to get them, but in fact, the brain doesn't know that, and it feels as real as a physical threat in the brain, and what we as coaches can do to offset some of this. So let me maybe first ask if there's any questions, and then I think I'm missing. Oh no, that's the one. What I'd like you to do now is Hussein's going to get you in groups, and I'd like you to discuss what coaching strategies or tactics have you used or could you use to address SCARF threat responses from our refugee clients. And I think Jessica is going to share that last slide with you to kind of remember SCARF, and you could be talking in terms of the SCARF or in terms of the mindsets. First of all, have you experienced this, or this sort of, we're just making this stuff up? Can you relate to any of it? And if so, what techniques you think could be helpful, or that you've tried, and sharing your experience. Okay. Are there any questions? Nope. Are you game for this? Yeah. And also it'd be nice to get in small groups, I think. to get in small groups and kind of discuss this. And then I'd like you to share. By the way, one time when we shared this and you went in small groups and talked about coaching strategies for the different mindsets, we took that information, Hussein took it, and we're integrating that and we're collecting that information, and we're going to be presenting that in the UK at our conference. And as we build our training platform to, some of you volunteered to help us work on that about how do you coach refugees? Once we do that, we're going to incorporate all of your ideas. So we're keeping track of all of it. All right. So without further ado, we're going to go in groups. We'll give you 15 minutes to go around. If you want to choose somebody to kind of facilitate to make sure everybody has a chance to be mindful of the time so everybody has a chance to share. If you don't have a current client right now, or you're new to Refugee Jumpstart, maybe you've had other experiences with this that you could share as well. And then see if you could have one person kind of report out later about what some of the coaching techniques are. Okay, let's do it. See you all soon. And Jessica is going to, where are you going to put that, Jessica? The screenshot I sent.
I already put it in the chat.
Oh, great. I have not been following chat. Okay, take a look at the chat. Take a screenshot if you need to, because I don't think it goes to the chat with you if I'm not mistaken. So somehow memorize that or copy it. I joined a couple of groups. There's such great discussion going on. Really, really good. So why don't we just take a few moments just if we could hear from each group, just highlights of specific coaching techniques or thoughts that you have, but just really like bullet.
I'll go first, Beth.
Okay, I'm trying to think about how can we do you want to either take notes or should we put it in as you write? Should we put it in chat? Because we really want to capture. Why don't you describe it and then add it to chat if you would, and then we'll save it.
Sure. Yeah.
Who's talking? I don't even see.
Beth, this is Manaz. I want to go first.
Okay, go for it, Manaz. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So both me, Gina, and Injabir, it was his first call. He's still coaching, so he didn't have much of experience to share. But me and Gina, both of us, the strategies we discussed, regardless, two of my clients and one of Gina were the first one that really stood out. I really liked Gina when she shared the client she coached and how, with a very simple technique of the client was actually in need of instant results. He refused to be, he's a very smart entrepreneur, but he refused to look at the long term because perhaps somewhere he was not very sure about the future. He lacked that certainty. So the strategy she used was a combination of helping him be in the now, give him some tools to really work on the goals, make sure he's present in the now, and also not forget that the long-term game is also that he cannot neglect. That was one from her. From my end, two of the clients I coached, one of the strategies that really, really helped me, specifically with client, was the one which was not technical. It was a journaling technique I usually apply. I have learned this from, you may have heard of the psychologist Pennebaker. When we write, it's like writing 15 minutes of a traumatic or distressed event for 4 consecutive days, the same stuff, but you write it for 4 days. And then there is a neuroscience to it where the intensity it reduced drastically. It's a Pennebaker method. So I kind of used it using my own model, a journaling technique, helping a client, providing the person a free space, retaining the confidentiality and saying, just vomit it all out. Say it, vent it out, so that all the suppressed emotions and, all that stuff, it just comes out, and it really helped.
Right.
So two from our end. That's it.
So the be present in the now, getting them to that point. I'm sure
Yes, and the journaling technique.
And the journaling. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
What other group? Let's hear some bullets on key things that your group came up with.
I can go.
Okay.
I met with Aisha. It was just the two of us, and it was really great. I wish it had gone on longer because I feel like we were just getting into the meat of it. But we talked a little bit about acknowledging that cognitive distortion and recognizing when the clients are flooded with um, the challenges and the victim mentality, perhaps, and using or bridging their experiences when things have been really positive, when things have gone well, courage that they've faced, getting first jobs, perhaps getting married, using some real joy life events and having them share and talk about it. And then it lightens them and it reminds them that they have had really positive experiences in their lives and that they will have those again. So just using or using the knowledge of what cognitive distortion really is and what the behaviors are like when they're experiencing it and helping them shift from those negative mindsets to positive mindsets that they have experienced before. So kind of using that past positive mindsets and helping them bring that into a current situation. So that was kind of where we were on the path that we were going on, and it was great.
Well, you two should hook up later and keep talking, Carrie. You come out with some good stuff.
Yeah, it was great, and I think it was really powerful too. Just talking about that for
Yeah,
sure.
wonderful, wonderful. I'm delighted to hear it. Who else?
Hi, it's Evie here. I was with Ines in a group, and one of the things that we talked about um, for certainty when there was a lot of unpredictability, anxiety, or instability was co-creating some routines and structures or healthy habits that supported the client to feel regulated. And then just linking on to what some of the previous participants have said in goal mapping, making sure we're breaking down those long-term goals into very micro achievable steps, because then we've got a route map that we can celebrate along the way.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think that the long goals and then having small steps where they, just take one little bite at a time, I think is really powerful. So thank you. Thank you. And the routines also, I think, creating some kind of certainty in their lives. Other people.
I can go.
Okay. Great.
Yes. So we were a group of three with Elsa and Stephanie. So the key bits which we discussed was the first is the whole idea about how do you identify what kind of mindset one refugee is operating from. I think that diagnosis is extremely important before jumping into coaching strategy. And there, as a group, we discussed about asking powerful questions. And one of the powerful questions can be, what's your worst fear? Yeah, and that question can offer you some data, which can then be filtered into what is the exact mindset the refugee is operating from. So therefore, before coaching, the key point which we want to talk about is that before getting into strategies, we need to really, really understand what's the mindset the refugee is operating from. So that's number one. Number two, we talked about the change management framework because each of the refugees will have a past, and the past will be impacting the present. So therefore, there we talked about the Kubler-Ross framework, which talks about the responses to change. And most of you would have known, but there are different emotions which come to the change curve, because that's also called change curve. I don't exactly remember what are the different phases, but it's anger, denial, shock. It just goes down like this. And then over a period of time, it comes up when you integrate with the change. So initially, these are the uneasy, uncomfortable emotions associated with change. And then it goes up when there are positive emotions coming up with change. So what we talked about is one, different people and different refugees spend different amounts of time in each of these phases. That therefore, it's important for a coach to acknowledge the emotions and work with the emotions to an extent that over a period of time, that journey from the uneasy part of change can gradually move on to the comfortable part of comfortable emotions associated with change. So that journey will be unique for each coachee, and that journey together along with the coach will be equally unique. So therefore, being mindful and deliberate about that journey is extremely critical. So that's the second thing which we talked about. The third bit which we talked about is around reframing, and which really is relevant for all the mindsets. And so one of the specific reframing we talked about is about the certainty bit, where which we talked about uncertainty by the nature of it is neutral. However, we often assign a negative connotation to uncertainty. So therefore, the reframing which we talked about is that uncertainty is not necessarily negative. Uncertainty is neutral. It is our story which makes it negative or positive. So that reframing was one thing which we also talked about. Um, Same bit reframing was around autonomy. I have no control over my life. Again, I mean, who has control over life? What does control look like? To what extent we have control to what things? So these are some of the questions which which can possibly open up new lines of discussion along with the refugee coachee. What we also discussed as a part of it is when we talked about this, I have no control over my life, is to really talk about progress over perfection. That can we take small little steps rather than looking for the ideal future um, which we are aiming for. So in the conversation, how do we emphasize progress over perfection? That's another bit which we talked about. So I think these are the 4 or 5 areas which we covered when we looked at the STAR framework. Am I missing anything else? Am I missing anything, Stephanie?
No, well done.
Really well done. Anybody else? Any other groups?
So we were in group 5. So this is Anne, and we were with Aderonke and Pfizer.
Okay.
So I think much of it has been covered, but we talked about visualization, really sort of helping the client strongly visualize what success looks like. But even if actions are not taken, just that fact of visualization sort of stimulates the brain towards movement. In addition to sort of prioritizing and helping the client understand what is actually realistic. If we're looking at SMART objectives, what is realistic to achieve, so that they can be more objective in what they want to achieve. And then we looked at using, well, we tend to use the life wheel, but then using the life wheel as a prioritization tool. So what happens is you use the 8 segments of your life wheel to list the 8 priority areas that you want to identify, and then in so doing, so you can ask them to list everything that they think is a priority. What the weakness with listing sort of vertically is that you tend to go for what's on the top of the list. So what then you help your client do is by making the circle, they make a plate. It's flat. You remove the hierarchy, and then they identify the 8 that they want to work on. Then they scale it between 1 and 10, the satisfaction in prioritizing what they've identified. And it's not a judgment score, quote unquote. It's a location pin. You are here. We've dropped a location pin, and you're walking in that direction. So just to also remove that feeling of guilt when you see a low, quote unquote, score. So, we're on a map, and this is where we're going. Once you've done that, then we've identified our location pins, identify the 3 segments that you can take to act on immediately that can amplify you towards where you want to go. And they don't have to necessarily be the worst scores. They can also be the best scores. But once you've identified those, then you can make 3 more circles and work with your priorities as well. To complement some of the other things is visualization, somatic practice, identify success, see it, be it, taste it, smell it. And then once you've vividly done that, each step backwards, do the same to the present day. And you do that by whiteboarding. So I whiteboard a lot. So even these circles are whiteboard. And also this success story I whiteboard so they can actually see.
and you can actually ask them to write. So it's an interaction. So they're not a passive observer. They are actively within building their dream as they whiteboard with you. So that's some of the things that we do.
Wow, that's fabulous. It's so specific. That would be a great, we're talking about prioritization for our clients. That would be a great training program if you or somebody in your group wants to do that. It would be amazing. And even for our own coaches for Coaching Bite, to how to use, I haven't used that wheel in a long time, and I forgot how, I found it really interesting that it's not kind of linear, but why the wheel is so important, the shape, that it's not a hierarchy. So thank you for that. That was great. Such good work you guys are doing. Have we heard from each group?
So there's group 6. I'm not sure if the other guys are still on the call. I think I might be the only person that is left.
Okay.
Yeah, so we just discussed very briefly about the SCARF model, and I think the alignment is for me, if I had the SCARF when I took on 1 or 2 clients earlier on, probably I would have been able to use SCARF to be able to support them with the grow model and make it work, because you realize that the clients are stuck in this survival mode, emotions and all of that, and just trying to get out of it, getting them out of that mode to look forward into the future sometimes can be very tough. But with this model you introduced, it could have been a little bit much more easier. And the other people in the group also aligned to that, as they have clients that they need to spend 2-3 sessions with, just trying to get them out of the sort of survival mode to get them into looking towards the future and providing solution to work on. So it's a good tool, but then overlaying it together with the grow model becomes something that can become powerful, understanding different stages that refugees can pass through while you're coaching them. I think that's the outcome of what we did in the session.
Great. Thank you. And I'm glad you're finding it helpful, how it might alter how you would approach a client. So that's and leading them toward a growth model. That's fabulous. You guys are also great. You're so seasoned. By the way, I want to introduce Dudane. Dudane, which I think is your first name. Can you put your video on? Who's a new coach/mentor of ours? Are you there? Can you unmute? He joined us a little late. Okay, but he was in one of the groups, I think, with you folks. Okay, well, thank you. We're going to write all this up and get it back to you. And we're going to really keep building this model because I think it's really unique. I don't think anything's like this out there in terms of the refugee mindsets and looking at some neuroscience behind it and some coaching techniques. So thank you for helping us develop this. Yeah, Annabelle.
Bev, I was with Eleanor, and much of what has been said was what we talked about. But one thing that really struck me was that I was coaching somebody today who was not a refugee, but actually somebody who has had a very traumatic background. And the conversation around survivor mode and how limiting that is and how short term and how, although she had come beyond the trauma that she had previously suffered, she'd been sort of fallen back into it. So a very different client background, identity, context, but actually and a lot of what I've been listening to people saying, so some of which is brilliant, and I'm really glad we're going to be capturing it, because I also feel as if I can make really good use of it with clients when I'm not working with RJS clients.
Yeah, great. Because, like I said, the SCARF thing was developed really for today's leaders. It's a leadership development tool and a framework. And an organizational, it's got so much applicability, but I don't think anyone's really kind of matched it up with refugees. But you're right. You probably all have clients who suffer from some of these things, and SCARF could be either a threat or reward for them. So, well, thank you for all your good feedback on all this. I just want to end with one thing. Let me just kind of summarizing this. When coaching addresses scarf threats, transformation is possible. And I think some of you are already doing that and see it. So we want to propose, our wellness coaches, our well-being coaches, many of our coaches have different specialties, leadership, life coaches, whatever. And we have a group of fabulous people. Aisha is here, and Caroline, and Elza, Faiza, Jasna, and Riva are all wellness coaches. And I know Stephanie does some work in this area as well. And we were talking about having a client case review. We want to give you some additional support. So if some of you feel like, I do leadership coaching, I'm kind of out of my element, the threat stuff is too strong. I can't quite deal with it. And you want to be able to talk about it with somebody. So we want to get your feedback on it. This is something you're interested in. And Jessica will put up a survey just at the end of this brief thing. So an opportunity to provide you with an opportunity to discuss the challenges and questions you're having about coaching you're doing with some RJS clients. So it could be one-on-one, just say, I need some additional support. I'm kind of going crazy here. I don't know what to be doing. It's not working, whatever it is, or I'm getting so my boundaries are falling apart and I need help. So either one-on-one with a well-being coach, just to kind of talk it through to see whether or not you want to participate in a small group, and people would bring their challenges, kind of like you're doing now, but very specific on a specific challenge. Or maybe it's so it's one-on-one or in a small group with other coaches who share similar or different challenges with RGS clients, kind of like a peer, case review. I used to do some consulting with a legal aid organization, and they used to have these formal case reviews. So it was more on the legal aspect of it, but it seems to work here. And I think it was Elsa, that there's a thing called Envision that when well-being coaches come together, they have something like this. And at those meetings, you could clarify either coaching approaches, decide to pass the client on to a well-being coach and just say, you know what? I think after a couple sessions, it's not a good match for me. And possibly passing them on to a well-being coach, or using the well-being coach as an additional support for the client. So it's like, I'm going to continue, but maybe offer and share that this person has particular expertise in some of the issues that you're dealing with, and maybe see them 1 or 2 times. And then I'd like you to come back and share what you've learned and that sort of thing. If we did a group process, it might look something like the coach would briefly describe the issue. The group asks questions around it to clarify. The coach redefines it a little bit. Participants offer suggestions, and then the coach listens and summarizes insights on what they found most useful. And then participants reflect on what all of you learned who participated in this. So it would be a chance to kind of come and share and really get into a particular client that you'd like feedback. It's not a supervision kind of thing. It's more peer support, and also peer support with people who have, specific training on well-being. So we want to know if, number one, if this is something that is of interest to you, and if so, how we would structure it. Just a couple of questions. Do you want to do it at the end of a meeting like this? Do you want to have a separate meeting? Do you want to do it? You write it in your coaching session completion form. I'd like to join a group. And the next time we have a group, we've got some questions. So Jessica, let me turn it over to you. And maybe you could, first of all, are there any questions? I went through that fairly quickly. Any questions? Okay, so we're going to experiment on surveys.
Yes, I'm going to drop a survey, oopsie daisies, in the chat. And you just said something, Bev, so I just wanted to add one more question.
Yeah.
Really quick. Here I go. Done. Okay, so now I'm going to save it and I'm going to put it in the chat for you all. And you just have to click the link and a short survey will pop up and it looks, yep, you will see it in the chat and then you'll be able to pull it up and answer and that will be wonderful.
And it's actually going to show all of us the results anonymously, right?
Yes, it is anonymous.
Very cool. I'm anxious to see how this works.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to show it to you in this moment because it's attached to my account, Bev. I couldn't make a poll from your account, so
okay.
I will get the results.
Okay.
If you want to see what it looks like, Bev, it looks like this, and then people will push submit.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Evie.
Yeah, we're just trying to I mean, we've been thinking about this, but just want to make sure that it's something that meets your needs. And if you're interested in doing it, and if so, what the process might look like.
Bev, I think it's a really great idea just to be able to have, because even just hearing how other people are approaching, the life wheel, the reminder, I use it in all my other coaching situations, and I haven't used it in this one. And the way that it was described, I thought, of course, why haven't I used it here? So having that kind of a conversation on the wellness theme, I think is useful. And I think if one person has a case, it might trigger something for others to hear about it and maybe can contribute. And so it's why I've suggested if it can be done, like right now, I don't have the need for it, but something else might come up. And if you could ask it on your idea of asking for it on the completion form for it to be put onto an upcoming month's coaching call, I think is a good one. And whether you need 30 minutes or 15 minutes, because time is really valuable. And I probably say, keep 15 minutes.
Yeah, well, that was a dilemma. It's like, I don't want, you guys are all volunteers. I don't want you to have to, come to this meeting and then you have to come to another meeting. And but I didn't know if you want to attach more time to it, but I think if there's a few people on it, you want some 15 minutes the coaches are telling me it may not be enough. So it would be a longer session. Maybe sometimes we could devote to this, just the whole session would be taken over by a case review kind of thing. Maybe every so often when we get enough, that might be the coaching bite, or something. But we'll wait to see what what you guys came up with. All right. So I guess that's it.
I see Elsa's hand is up, Bev.
Elsa, yes, please.
Yeah, it's just to say that I've experienced both. I have a supervisor and I participate in this get together, let's put this way. And I find it really helpful because what we get in the end is that with the supervision, we have some skill correction because the person is talking to us as an adult child, where if we have in this get together, it's more partnering, and we get more perspectives, deeper insight, peer support, collective reflection, collective intelligence to talk about the issue. So it's really helpful. I just want to give my testimony as being something that will surely help us. You guys will tell us about the structure, but I think that if we can get together to discuss one or two cases and we take roles of mediating, it would be great.
Sounds great. Thank you. And thank you for all the support in this. Any other last minute thoughts, comments? I know people have to drop off because we're a couple minutes late already. I want to keep our commitments. So
maybe one comment from my side, because I think it's a great idea. But I also do think that we need to keep some confidentiality.
Absolutely.
To be ethical. So also maybe that should be also cleared out how we should handle that in case we want to discuss a case.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, we often use first names, but we'll never use last names. So, if it's Mohammed, we got like 10 Mohammeds, But yeah,
Elsa just
We were-
dropped in the chat that there's no recording in these cases and no names. And Gina, I see, says the person is referred to as the client.
Yeah. And set up ground rules at the beginning about how you're going to do this, about confidentiality. Absolutely. It's a really good point. But I just made that assumption, but I think we should make it explicit. So thank you, Alana.
I'm sorry to jump in at the end. Was on another call. I'm very interested. I'm Lenny Wildflower. I've trained coaches for 30 years. I'm in the UK, and through Cindy Miller, I got in touch with Bev, and I just want to say how glad I am. What an important thing you guys are doing.
Thank
And
you.
I really have much gratitude for the whole thing.
Thanks, Lenny, and for all.
And use me when you need to.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay.
Sounds great. Anything else? Any other thoughts, comments? No?
Have a great trip next week.
Thank you. Looking forward to meeting. Who's going to be there? Who am I going to see? I'm going to see. Oh, they already dropped off the call.
Bev,
we'll talk later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
I know a lot of people have to leave. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.